Hey there, Megan O bringing you your market recap for 2022. So what happened in 2022 that we're curious about? Let's dive in and learn about it today. Okay, first up, we're going to share a little bit about kind of where we were going into 2022. So at the beginning of 2022, we were still very much in a high demand, low inventory market, which is the definition of a seller's market. When you have too little inventory and way too much demand, too many buyers in the buyer pool. So leaning into 2022, we had low interest rates. You could get mortgages at 2 and 3% at that time. And then we had tons of buyers in the DFW area, and we had barely any inventory. Most areas were at half a month to maybe right at a month. Some areas just stayed at half a month for most of the beginning of 2022. So that's where we were looking in 2022. We also had predictions coming from analysts that 2022 would see a higher interest rate. But that really inventory wouldn't be impacted and not much else, just a higher interest rate. Of course, as 2022 progressed, that's not quite what happened. So let's look at Collin County. We're just going to dive into the data for Collin County and a few of the cities within Collin County as a recap for 2022. So first up, total sales for Collin County in 2022 were down by 18% year over year. So comparing 22 to 21. For a total of 14,622 sales for the entire year in Collin County. Now, we really started off 22 with a bang, right? We had a ton of sales and a ton of things going on. And then around the middle of May, things started to slowly decline. And then it was a rapid decline at the beginning of June. And that is because interest rates had spiked. And they would spike again in October, which really sent November's data down much further in November. 22 compared to November 2021 is a drastic decline for Collin County. Okay, next up was Collin County average sales price. So the average sales price for the entire county for the entire year of 2022 is $595,400, and that is a 20% increase year over year. So we gained 20% in sales price, average sales price in 1 year in Collin County. And that is something we had been talking about this entire time, is that you will see a great amount of appreciation in your property's value in 2022 after coming through most of the COVID market that started in the middle of 2020 and peaked at the tail end of 21 and into the very beginning of 2022, and then it just went down from there. Okay, next up is going to be kind of a recap of what's happening in Dallas, Plano, Irving, just so you can understand years. So 2022 back to 2020. So what happened in that overall time frame? So in 2022 on this slide, we're in orange. And this is just for Dallas, Plano, and Irving areas. And then the purple is 2021. And then the kind of reddish color is 2022. As you can see, we peaked in 2020 in the month of July. And that's going to be Dallas, Plano, Irving data. And then we started to peak again a little bit in December of 2020. But then if you're looking at 2022, where we fell by the end of 2022 in December was right about where we were in February of 2020. So not much, just a little bit less than February of 2020 and about the same as where we were in actually February of 2022. So again, this graph is just showing for home sales, we're kind of going back to where we were in the very beginning of the COVID market and slightly prior in our more normal balanced market. But our peak really happened in July in 2020, and then again a little bit in December of 2020 as well. Let's take a look next at Collin County. So this is just Collin County, and this is just between the years of 2020 and 2022. What was happening to home sales? Well, we kind of started out lower than about 1,000 for the month in January. And by the time we hit July of 2020, we were well over 2,000 sales for the county. And then by the time we hit December of 2020, we were hovering between 1,500 and 1,800 in sales for the county, for Collin County. And then if we jump up to 2022, which is our darkest color column on this chart, you're going to see that we started the beginning of 2022 with a little less than 1,000 closed sales for the county, and then we increased it by the end of 2022. So while it may look a little bit like we were decreasing because our market had shifted and we had higher interest rates, we actually closed out Collin County with more sales at the end of the year than we did the beginning of the year. So just an interesting way to see the data that really we're still trending and doing well in Collin County as we progressed through the year. Now let's just take a peek at Plano as one of the cities that we're going to highlight within Collin County. So between the years of 2020 and 2022, on this chart, you have 2020 in red, 21 is in green, and blue is 2022. So as you can see, starting in red, we began around a little less than 200 sales for the city of Plano in January of 2020. We peaked in July again of 2020. And then we peaked a little bit again in October of 2020. Now let's look at that compared to 2022. So we were probably about 189-ish, 180 for the total number of sales for Plano in 2022 in January of that year. And then we peaked in 2022 in June. And then we started to come down, but really still in December, we're not just a tad bit less than we were in January. So probably around that 165-ish mark, just a little bit less than we started in January. So that's very similar to what overall Collin County was doing. We started and really ended around the same threshold, not too much of a differential there on the total number of sales closing out for Plano for the year. Okay, let's take a peek at Allen. That's our last city in Collin County that we're going to take a look at. So we started in January of 2020 with about 160 sales in January. We peaked in July, a little over 200 at that time. And then we peaked again in October of 2020, a little over 150. And then for 2022, in our light green color, we were about, looks like somewhere between 70 and 80 sales. And then in December, we actually had more sales in December of 2022 than we did in January of 2022 in Allen. So on the flip side, compared to Plano, Allen actually did better in total number of closed sales by the end of the year than it did by the beginning of 2022. So that's just going to show you kind of an overall that activity is still happening in Collin County, in the cities that are desirable to live in, like Plano and Allen and Frisco and McKinney. And we just looked at 2 cities for you as an overview. Okay, and now we're going to kind of go back and we're going to see what did it look like in a normal market before we went into a COVID market. So most analysts will say 2018 was pretty balanced, pretty typical normal market in 2018. Most areas, yes, I can tell you in Allen, where I was selling and where I lived in 2018, we were just about balanced. We had about 5 months and a week, 2 weeks of inventory in most of the area. So that meant that there was just about enough inventory for the buyers at hand that were available. Now you could still get bidding wars, and I certainly did still get bidding wars on really good, nice properties, even in an almost balanced market in 2018. So that's what was going on in 2018. Now in 2022, what happened overall? Did we do better in 2022 or did we do worse? Because a lot of people think we did worse than our last normal market. Well, actually, the truth is we did 26% higher on our median sales price in 2022 than in 2018 for all of Collin County. And we did 5.9% better in total number of sales for all of DFW in 2022 than we did in 2018. So we actually are selling more and we are getting higher prices in 2022 than we did in our last normal market of 2018. It's just kind of a little bit of a kicker there as to how markets change and progress. Now, the difference between those two markets is inventory. We still are not at the inventory levels as of February 21st, 2023 that we had in 2018. So just closing out 2022, most of our inventory was still hovering, depending on the area, somewhere between 2 months and 3 months worth of inventory, which is higher. Remember, I said at the beginning, we started the beginning of the year with most areas in 2022 seeing 0.5% or half a month's inventory to possibly a month. So in the heart of Plano, it was half a month's of inventory, meaning 2 to 3 weeks, and we would be completely out of every home for sale before anything else hit the market. In a couple of the other areas of Collin County, we had closer to a month. So you had a little bit more time to get things moving along. And now we have 2.3 months worth of inventory in Collin County. And in some areas, it's a little bit higher, closer to 3, like 2.7, 2.8 months. But that's just telling us we have a what we call slight seller's advantage over the buyers. So we still have an advantage as sellers, but we have less buyers in this marketplace than we had previously, yet we still have a buyer demand because we still don't have enough inventory for all the buyers. So that's going to lead us right into our predictions for 2023, and you'll want to come back to our channel next week and watch our 2023 predictions. Thanks, everybody.